On the distant world of Arathia, life was ruled by order, logic, and silence. Emotions were forbidden by ancient law. The Council of Elders declared long ago that feelings were dangerous. They believed emotions caused wars, chaos, and destruction. So every alien child was raised under one commandment: do not feel. Celera was one of these children. She grew up in the shining city of glass towers and silver skies. Around her, everyone walked with calm faces, no laughter, no anger, no tears. Their voices were steady, their eyes cold, their hearts were chained by duty. Celera tried to obey, but inside, she always felt something different. Sometimes, when she watched the twin suns set, she felt a strange warmth. Other times, when she saw the lonely stars, her chest ached. She did not understand it. She only knew that if anyone discovered her secret, she would be punished. The law was clear. Any alien who feels shall be erased. Her life changed the day the human came. Daniel arrived on Arathia in a silver ship. He was an explorer, a traveler from Earth. The aliens allowed him to stay, but only under close watch. They said humans were strange, too emotional, too dangerous. The council warned, do not copy his ways, for his kind are weak. But Celera saw him smile, and in that simple smile, her world began to break. Daniel walked the alien streets with wonder. He laughed when he saw the children play. He cried when he told stories of Earth. He even shouted in anger when the council tried to silence him. Celera had never seen such things. To her people, his emotions looked like madness, but to her, it looked alive. One evening, Celera followed him to the gardens near the crystal lake. She watched him sit on the edge, throwing small stones into the water. Each ripple seemed to carry his thoughts. He began to hum a tune, soft and human, a melody filled with longing. Celera's chest tightened. She felt her eyes burn. She touched her cheek and found something wet. It was a tear, the first tear of her life. Fear gripped her heart. She looked around quickly, hoping no one saw. Tears were forbidden. Feelings were forbidden, but that single drop could not be erased. She had crossed a line. From that night on, Celera's curiosity grew. She kept watching Daniel from the shadows. Every gesture, every word he spoke carried emotions. When he saw beauty, his eyes lit up. When he felt sadness, his shoulders fell. When he remembered Earth, his voice trembled. Celera whispered to herself, why does it feel so powerful? Why does it feel right? The council, however, grew suspicious. They noticed Celera's distracted gaze, the softness in her voice. They warned her, stay away from the human, or the law will fall upon you. Celera bowed her head. But in her heart, she could not obey. Something inside her had awakened. One night, Daniel caught her watching him. He smiled gently and said, you don't have to hide. His words shook her. She wanted to run, but his tone was kind, not commanding. For the first time, someone spoke to her not with orders, but with care. Celera stepped forward, her voice trembling. Why do you laugh? Why do you cry? Daniel looked at her with surprise. Then he said, because I am alive. Feelings make us human. Feelings give us strength. His answer echoed in her mind like thunder. Strength, not weakness. That was not what she had been taught. Could the law be wrong? Could emotions be the true power? As the twin moons rose above the lake, Celera felt her heart beating faster. She did not understand it, but she knew one thing. The human had changed something deep inside her, something she could never undo. She looked at him again, her voice no more than a whisper. If emotions are strength, then why are they forbidden here? Daniel's eyes darkened with sorrow. Because those in power fear what they cannot control. Celera froze. His words were dangerous, but they felt true. She knew then that her life would never be the same. In the city of silence, she had heard the first song of the heart. In the world without feelings, she had shed the first tear. And in that moment, Celera realized a terrifying truth. If the council discovered her change, she would not survive. Yet still, she could not turn away. The days after her first meeting with Daniel felt like walking on a thin line. Celera could not stop thinking about the strange warmth in her chest. The memory of that single tear haunted her. She had broken the oldest law of Arathia, and yet she did not regret it. Every time she saw Daniel walking through the shining streets, her heart beat faster. He was different from anyone she had ever known. His smile, his laughter, even his anger. It all carried a power her people never spoke of. To others, it looked like chaos. To her, it looked like freedom. But freedom was dangerous. The council's warnings echoed in her mind. Stay away from the human. She tried to obey. But curiosity was stronger than fear at night. When the city slept in silence, Celera found herself wandering near the human's quarters. She watched him through the glass walls as he wrote in his journal. His face changed with every thought. Sometimes joy, sometimes sadness, sometimes hope. She wondered how it was possible to carry so many feelings at once. One evening, Daniel noticed her again. This time, instead of pretending to hide, Celera stepped forward. Her voice shook. "Teach me." Daniel tilted his head, confused. "Teach you what?" She swallowed hard. "Teach me emotions." The words felt like fire on her tongue. It was the first time an alien had ever asked for something forbidden. Daniel stared at her for a long moment, then said softly, "Are you sure? If your people find out." "I do not care," she interrupted. Her voice was small but firm. "I need to know." And so, the secret lessons began. Each night, in the quiet of the crystal gardens, Daniel spoke about emotions. He explained how humans felt happiness when the sun warmed their skin, how they felt sorrow when they lost someone they loved, how anger gave them strength, and how hope kept them alive. Celera listened to every word, her eyes wide, her chest tight. He asked her to close her eyes. "Think of something that makes you feel safe." She tried, and for the first time, she felt a spark of comfort, like the warmth of starlight. Then he said, "Think of something that makes you afraid." Her body shivered. Her mind went to the council, to the punishments, to the erasure of those who disobeyed. The fear was sharp, but real. She gasped, clutching her chest. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, gentle and steady. "You're learning." Celera's heart pounded harder at his touch. She pulled back quickly, but the sensation stayed with her, a heat that refused to fade. The spark had grown, but sparks do not stay hidden forever. Whispers began to spread in the city. People noticed Celera's distracted gaze, the slight change in her tone, the softness in her eyes. The council summoned her, their voices cold. "You have been spending too much time with the human." Celera lowered her head. "He is different. He has knowledge we do not." "Knowledge is not emotion," the council snapped. "Do not confuse his weakness with wisdom." Celera bowed, but in her heart, she no longer believed their words. She had seen the strength in Daniel's emotions. She had felt it herself. That night, she returned to the gardens. Her voice trembled. "The council suspects me. What if they find out?" Daniel looked at her with concern. "Then you must decide. Do you want to live in fear, or do you want to live with truth?" His question struck her like lightning. For her whole life, she had been told truth was logic, truth was order, truth was silence. But now, truth felt different. Truth was the racing of her heart, the warmth of his hand, the spark she could no longer deny. Celera whispered, almost to herself, "I feel." The word stopped in her throat, forbidden, dangerous. Daniel leaned closer, his eyes steady. "Say it." Her voice broke as the word escaped. "I feel alive." The silence around them deepened. It was the first time in centuries that an alien had spoken such a word with meaning. Her chest ached with both fear and joy. The spark had become fire. From that night forward, Celera could not hide anymore. Every step, every thought carried the weight of her secret. She knew discovery meant death. But for the first time in her life, she understood why humans fought, why they dreamed, why they loved. Because to feel, even for a moment, was worth the risk of everything. The secret lessons continued, night after night. Celera met Daniel in the crystal gardens, hidden under the glow of twin moons. With each meeting, her world broke further away from the laws of her people, and something new replaced it, something alive. Daniel spoke to her about feelings, not as rules, but as experiences. He told her how laughter could heal sadness, how anger could fuel courage, how love could bind people stronger than any law. Celera listened, her mind fighting to reject, but her heart pulling her closer each time. He asked her to try something new. "Think of me as your friend," he said. Celera blinked. The word friend was foreign. On Arathia, there were only titles: citizen, worker, counselor, soldier. No one had ever been called friend. She repeated it softly. Friend. The word felt strange on her tongue, but warm in her chest. Daniel smiled. Friends share trust. They protect each other. They care when no one else does. Celera tilted her head. But what if caring brings punishment? His answer was simple. Then caring is even more important. Those words burned into her mind. She thought about them constantly. In the silent city of Arathia, where voices never rose and laughter never echoed, Celera realized that what Daniel gave her was more dangerous than any weapon. Hope. But danger was never far. The council's spies watched Daniel closely. They noticed Celera's quiet visits. They did not yet act. But suspicion grew stronger each day. Celera felt the shadow of fear wherever she walked. Her hands trembled when she stood before the council. Her heart raced when she passed the cold eyes of the guards. Yet when she returned to Daniel, the fear melted. In his presence, she felt something new. Safety. One night, Daniel brought a small device from his ship. It played soft music, gentle notes flowing like water. Celera froze. Her people had no music, no songs, no rhythm. For centuries, all such things had been banned, but the sound touched her soul in ways words never had. Her lips trembled. What is this? Daniel's voice was tender. It's called music. It is the voice of emotions. It is the heart speaking without words. Celera closed her eyes. The melody wrapped around her like light, and her chest ached again. But this time, she did not resist. Tears slipped down her cheeks, and she whispered, "Why does it hurt and heal at the same time?" Daniel smiled sadly. That is what feelings do. They are pain and joy together. That is what makes them powerful. Her heart pounded. She touched her tears, no longer ashamed. For the first time, she wanted the world to see. She wanted her people to understand that emotions were not poison. They were life itself. But she knew the truth. If they discovered her, they would not understand. They would erase her, just as they erased others who had broken the law. The weight of fear pressed on her. Each step in the city felt heavy. Each glance from strangers felt like a blade. At night, she dreamed of being dragged before the council, of hearing the cold judgment. Erasure. She woke trembling, tears soaking her pillow. Daniel noticed her unease. "You are afraid," he said gently. Celera nodded. "Yes, I fear the council. I fear losing this." Her voice cracked as she gestured to him, to the hidden space between them. "But most of all, I fear myself, for I cannot stop feeling." Daniel's hand brushed hers, a light touch, but it sent fire through her veins. "Celera, fear means you care. It means you have something to lose. It means you have something worth fighting for." Her breath caught. His words cut deeper than any command from her people. For the first time, she realized that her fear was not weakness, but proof that her heart was alive. Still, a storm gathered. The council's suspicions grew. They whispered of corruption. They spoke of purging the human before he infected more minds. Celera overheard fragments in the halls. Her blood turned cold. If Daniel was destroyed, the spark inside her would die too. She could not let that happen. But what could one alien girl do against the law of her entire world? Celera stood at the edge of the crystal lake one night, staring into her reflection. For the first time, she saw not just a citizen of Arathia, but someone different, someone who had broken the silence, someone who had tasted truth. Her voice shook as she whispered to herself, "I cannot go back." Behind her, Daniel approached, his voice steady. "Then you must go forward." She turned to him, tears shining in her eyes. "But forward leads to danger." He answered softly, "Forward leads to freedom." In that moment, Celera knew the lessons of the heart were not just stories. They were weapons. And she, who once obeyed every law, now carried the most dangerous weapon of all, the weapon of feeling. The calm silence of Arathia was breaking. The council felt it first, They watched the human's influence spread like a shadow. They saw Solara's eyes shine with forbidden warmth, and they whispered among themselves, fear in their voices disguised as authority. For generations, their power rested on control. They told the people emotions were poison. They declared feelings would bring chaos. They erased anyone who dared to break the law. But now, one alien girl and one human stood against centuries of silence. The council summoned Solara to their chamber. The hall was vast, built from black stone. Cold light spilled across the floor. The elders sat high upon silver thrones, their faces blank, their eyes sharp. Solara entered with her head bowed, her heart thundering inside her chest. Solara of Arathia. The high elder spoke, his voice flat. You have been seen with the human. You have been noticed wandering at night. You are accused of breaking the sacred law. Solara's throat tightened. Her voice shook. I have only sought knowledge, nothing more. The council's eyes narrowed. Knowledge, one elder snapped. He spreads weakness. He spreads corruption. You have allowed yourself to be tainted. Her chest burned with fear. But another fire rose too. She remembered Daniel's words. Forward leads to freedom, she whispered. If feelings are weakness, why do they feel like strength? The hall turned to ice. The council gasped as if she had spoken blasphemy. You dare question the law? The high elder thundered. Do you wish to be erased? Solara trembled, but she did not look away. Her heart screamed with fear, yet courage forced her to stand. That night, she returned to Daniel, her steps heavy, her breath shallow. She told him everything. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched. They will not stop, he said. The more you change, the more they will fear you. What should I do? She whispered. Daniel placed a hand over her trembling fingers. You must choose, Solara. Hide and survive in silence, or fight and risk everything. Her tears fell again, each drop a rebellion against the law. I am afraid, she confessed. He nodded. So am I, but fear only means this matters. The next day, the council acted. They summoned Daniel before the people. They accused him of spreading chaos. They declared his presence a danger to all Arathia. The crowd gathered in silence, their faces expressionless. Yet in their eyes, something stirred. Confusion, hesitation, curiosity. Some had begun to whisper of Solara's change. Some had begun to wonder if the human's madness was truly weakness. Daniel stood tall, unafraid. His voice rang clear. I have only shown you truth. I have shown you what it means to live, not just exist. The council roared. Silence, human, your words are poison. But Solara could not stay silent. She pushed through the crowd, her voice shaking yet strong. No, she cried. His words are not poison. They are life. The people gasped, an alien girl speaking with passion, with fire, with feeling. The high elder's eyes blazed with fury. Solara, you shame your world. You betray your people. By law, you shall be erased. The guard stepped forward, their cold eyes fixed on her. Solara's body froze, fear gripping her, but then she felt Daniel's hand reach for hers, warm and steady. In that moment, she understood. The law could command her silence, but it could not command her heart. She squeezed his hand and lifted her chin. Erase me if you must, she whispered, but you cannot erase the truth. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. For the first time in centuries, the people of Arathia had witnessed open defiance. For the first time, they saw courage born from emotion. The council, furious, struck their staffs against the stone, then let judgment fall. The high elder declared. Solara and Daniel were dragged toward the tribunal. The city watched in silence. Yet something invisible had already begun to spread. A spark, born in a girl's heart, was reaching others. And as Solara walked toward her fate, she realized a terrifying truth. The council's wrath was not only against her, it was against the very idea of love. The tribunal chamber was darker than night. Tall walls rose around Solara and Daniel, covered in cold silver patterns that reflected no warmth. The council sat high above, their faces empty as stone. The crowd filled the hall in silence, but their eyes were fixed on Solara, waiting to see what fate would fall. The High Elder's voice echoed, Celera of Arathia, you have broken the sacred law. You have felt emotions. You have spoken with fire. You have touched the human's corruption. Solara's knees trembled, but she stood straight. Daniel's hand in hers kept her steady. For a moment, she thought of running, of hiding, but then she remembered the nights in the garden. The music, the laughter, the tears, she could not deny them now. Daniel spoke first, his voice strong. She is not corrupted. She is alive. You are all afraid of the truth. You fear emotions because you know they cannot be controlled. The council shouted back, emotions bring war. Emotions bring death. We ended such chaos long ago. Daniel shook his head. No, you ended life itself. You silence hearts. You chain souls. That is not peace. That is prison. The hall stirred for the first time. The crowd whispered loudly. The people looked at one another. Some felt doubt. Some felt fear. But all felt something. Celera lifted her voice. Her words trembled but grew stronger with each breath. I have felt sorrow. I have felt joy. I have felt fear, but none of it destroyed me. It made me stronger. It made me more than I was before. The council's fury shook the chamber. Silence, Celera. You disgrace us. She turned her gaze upward, fire in her eyes. No, I honor life. I honor truth for the first time. I'm not empty. I'm not silent. I'm not a machine of law. I am alive. The people gasped. The word alive carried weight heavier than any decree. For centuries, they had obeyed without question. Now they saw one of their own breaking chains with her voice. Daniel looked at her, his eyes soft but fierce. He whispered, You are brave. Solara's heart pounded. Her throat was dry. But she forced the words out, words that could never be taken back. And I love him. The chamber froze. Time itself seemed to stop. The council stared in horror. The people whispered in shock. The forbidden word had been spoken aloud. Love, it had been erased from their language, erased from their memory, erased from their world. Yet here it was, alive again, carried in Solara's trembling voice. The High Elder slammed his staff against the floor, his voice thundering. Blasphemy! Love is the greatest weakness. It will destroy us all. You bring ruin to Arathia. But Celera did not look away. Her tears fell freely, her voice unbroken. If love is ruin, then let me be ruined, for I would rather feel love and fall than live in silence forever. The crowd's silence shattered. Murmurs turned to cries. Some shouted in anger, but many more cried in wonder. The fire in Solara's heart had spread. The council saw it, their control slipping. Daniel pulled her close, holding her hand high before all. You cannot erase this, he declared. You cannot erase us. The council ordered the guards forward. Chains were brought. The people watched, their voices rising louder. Confusion broke into defiance. Some shouted, Let them speak. Others whispered, What if the law is wrong? The High Elder bellowed, Order, order! Silence them before they spread further. But the silence was already broken. The chamber shook not with violence, but with voices. For the first time, the people of Arathia felt their hearts stirring. Celera held Daniel's hand tighter. Her body shook with fear, but her spirit burned like flame. She had spoken the forbidden word. She had declared love, and there was no turning back. The tribunal ended not with judgment, but with chaos. The guards hesitated. The people pushed forward. The council shouted in desperation. Celera looked at Daniel, and for the first time she smiled, a smile filled with both fear and joy. Her whisper reached his ear, No matter what happens, I will never regret this. And in that moment, the law of silence cracked. A human and an alien girl stood hand in hand, and love itself had become rebellion. The tribunal chamber did not return to silence. The council shouted for order, their voices breaking with fear, but the people no longer obeyed instantly. Their cold eyes, once trained to hide, now flickered with sparks, small at first, uncertain, but growing with every heartbeat. Celera stood, trembling beside Daniel. Chains hung heavy on her wrists. Yet she felt lighter than ever before. She had spoken the forbidden word. She had declared love. The law could crush her body, but it could not silence her soul. The council roared, "Take them away, erase them both, before their poison spreads." But the guards hesitated, their hands hovered over their weapons. Their eyes darted between the council and the crowd. For the first time, they felt doubt. For the first time, they wondered if the human's words were truth. Daniel's voice carried through the hall, firm and strong. "You see it now, don't you? You feel it. The law you live under has chained you for centuries. It told you emotions were weakness. But look at her." He turned to Celera. "Is she weak?" The crowd murmured. Some shook their heads. Some whispered, "She is strong." The seed had been planted. Celera lifted her chin. Her voice cracked, but it reached every corner of the chamber. "I am not broken. I am alive. You can erase me, but you cannot erase what has already begun inside your hearts." A young alien in the crowd gasped. A tear slid down his cheek. He touched it in shock. Others saw and began whispering. Emotions real and raw were awakening. The council's fear turned to rage, silenced them now. But the guards still did not move. Their eyes betrayed confusion. Some even lowered their weapons. The high elder slammed his staff. "If you will not obey, then you are traitors." Daniel stepped forward despite the chains. His voice thundered like a storm. "You fear us because you know the truth. Emotions are not chains. They are wings. They do not destroy life. They give life meaning." The people stirred louder. Murmurs grew into cries. Some shouted, "Let them speak." Others cried, "We want to feel." The council panicked. "If you follow them, you will bring ruin. Do you wish for chaos? Do you wish for war?" Solara's voice cut through the chamber. "I do not wish for war. I wish for freedom. I wish for love. And if that is chaos, then let it come." The chamber erupted. The people could no longer stay still. Some wept openly. Some shouted in anger at the council. The silence that had ruled their world for centuries was shattered, replaced by voices, raw and alive. The guards dropped their chains. They stepped back, their loyalty to the council cracking. The high elder screamed, "You fools, you doom us all." But the people no longer listened. A wave of emotion surged through them. Fear mixed with hope, sorrow with joy, rage with love. The air trembled with feelings long buried. Daniel turned to Celera, his eyes burning with pride. "You started this, Celera. You lit the fire." She shook her head. "No, we started it together." Outside the tribunal, the uprising spread. Crowds filled the streets, whispering of what they had seen. More tears were shed. More laughter broke free. The city of silence was no longer silent. The council tried to command, tried to order, but their voices were drowned. Their power weakened with every cry of the people. Every alien who dared to feel became a rebel. Every tear a weapon. Every smile a strike. Celera and Daniel stood at the center of it all. Symbols of change, symbols of rebellion. But Celera knew the danger was far from over. The council would not surrender easily. They would fight with fear. They would try to crush the flames. Yet she also knew the truth. The uprising was no longer just hers. It belonged to everyone who had felt their first tear, their first laugh, their first spark. For the first time in history, Arathia's heart was beating again. The uprising spread like fire through the veins of Arathia. The city that once lived in silence now trembled with voices. Laughter echoed in the streets. Tears flowed openly. Anger rose like thunder. For the first time in centuries, emotions walked free among the people. The council tried to resist. Their decrees echoed from the towers. Their guards marched into the squares. But the people no longer bowed their heads. They stood tall, shouting, crying, feeling. The council's commands turned to dust in the wind. Celera and Daniel were freed from their chains by the very guards who once obeyed the elders without question. The soldiers' eyes were no longer empty. Some glistened with tears, some burned with rage. They had chosen hearts over law. The high elder stood upon the tribunal steps, his voice shaking with fury. "You are destroying us. You are tearing apart centuries of order. Without the law, there will be ruin." Celera stepped forward, her voice rising above the crowd. "No, Without love, there was ruin all along. We were empty. We were not alive. The law did not protect us. It imprisoned us. The people roared in agreement. 1,000 voices thundered in the square. The high elder raised his staff. But as power cracked, his eyes darted across the crowd, and for the first time, he looked afraid. Daniel stood beside Celera, his voice steady and strong. You cannot erase what has already begun. You cannot unteach what has been learned. Your law has fallen. The council elders whispered in panic. Some tried to flee. Some clung to their authority. But no one listened anymore. The uprising had become unstoppable. Celera turned to the people, her eyes wet with tears, her voice trembling yet strong. I was one of you, silent, obedient, empty, but then I met someone who showed me what it means to feel. And I tell you now, love is not weakness, love is strength. It is the power to change everything. The crowd erupted. The sound shook the skies. It was no longer rebellion. It was revolution. The council's power collapsed that day. The towers of silence fell. The laws of emptiness were broken. In their place rose something new, fragile yet alive, a world where hearts could beat freely. Days later, the city glowed differently. Music played in the streets. Voices sang for the first time in centuries. Children laughed openly. Families wept together. Strangers embraced. For Arathia, the dawn of love had come. Celera and Daniel stood at the crystal lake where their journey began. The water shimmered under twin moons. She touched the surface, ripples spreading outward like the change across her world. Her voice was soft. I was once afraid of my own heart. Now I am not. Daniel smiled, his hand gently finding hers. You showed them the truth, Celera. You showed them that even in silence, a single spark can light the world. She looked at him, her eyes shining. No, you gave me the spark. Together, we turned it into fire. For a moment, there was no council, no law, no fear, only two souls standing side by side, bound not by chains but by choice. Celera whispered, I love you. The words no longer forbidden, no longer whispered in secret, but spoken proudly into the night. Daniel's eyes softened, and I love you. The wind carried their voices across the lake, across the city, across the world that had once known only silence. And so, on the planet where emotions were once outlawed, love became the first law of a new dawn.